Hi guys, welcome again to my YouTube channel, and today's topic is quite different from like my typical vlogs, and I don't know why it took me this long, but I have always wanted to share how I transitioned, from veterinary medicine to marketing. Now I work as a marketer, product marketing for tech startups, and it's something that I've always felt like you guys would benefit from. You guys know my journey as a content creator, and I just realized that I haven't shared as much. And to be honest, the conversation isn't even so much on my career, the transition story, but is more about how God leads and how God led me, in that season, or how he has led me, throughout my career up to this point. And I just really hope that he provides clarity, for anyone listening, that if you are in that phase where you're trusting God for direction, maybe for your career, or you're even just trusting God to know what to do next with your life, I hope that this story encourages you. I pray that your heart is opened, and I pray that you would see that God is more willing to lead you than when you're willing to be led. Amen. Okay, so I'm just going to start from the very beginning. One thing that has always been a constant factor in my life, and when I look back, is how at every point when I have to make a critical decision, a life-changing decision, it has always been clear what I was supposed to do. And I would say it all started when I was in uni, when, I'd been saved like most of my life. I got saved. I think I would say when I really understood what salvation meant was when I was in secondary school. But I started really growing when I got into uni. And part of the things that I used to, really read up on, was how to hear God, how to, know when God is speaking to you. I remember all those days in my 200 level, when, in fact, if you go to people's dormitories, most of the believers, the Christian sisters and even brothers, you will see books on, how to be led by God, how to hear God's voice. So I would say that even throughout the course of uni, learning all those things and just practicing them. Maybe you have an exam, you're praying, oh God, please just help me know what will come out, things like that. Or maybe you have an issue with a roommate and you're just trusting God for direction. And I would say that it was those little things, that built my faith. Or maybe for example, I stayed in the school hostel all through, and part of things that can really make or mar your experience are your roommate. So every year it was a really big deal, to know what room you'll be in and to just try to be with good people. And I remember that every year that I had to go back to the hostel, I would pray about that, God to lead me. And what later applied in life was when I was in uni, I felt like I had to do so much to hear God. I had to do so much. But what I eventually realized was that God is even willing to lead me more than I am willing to be led. And that is what you would see in this transition story, to product marketing in tech, and what has been my life generally career-wise. So I finished uni, and typical fashion, prayed about where to serve. Initially got posted to Akwa Ibom, then I redeployed. We had a family member who helped out with that. I just knew that I wasn't supposed to be in Akwa Ibom. Initially, I thought I was supposed to be in Lagos, because that was where I did my externship after veterinary school. But I remember one of the days when we were in that when the hospital rather, where I was practicing, and it was because the hospital, they used to have morning devotion. The owner was a believer, and I remember being in the devotion that day, and God told me, you're not serving in Lagos. I knew I had something to do in Lagos, but apparently it wasn't time yet. So I redeployed from Akwa Ibom to Ibadan, and then when I got to Ibadan, it was all that time that I had the breakup. The story is on my vlog, on the blog as well, and then it was just really that time I just said, okay, you know what, I'm going to pour my energy into focusing on God and just pursuing him. And thank God I had a solid local church, then. So I was serving in Ibadan in the veterinary hospital, and every day, as much as I could, and the days that the flesh did not take over, I would go out and pray in tongues for an hour, just really, because I knew that there was just this sense of there was a shift that was about to happen in my life, and I knew that I had to pray into it, and then I was really following DDK. There were even times that I would travel, to Lagos, and I think I should even talk about this. So when I was in Ibadan, praying, there was a time Pastor Debola Dejikurumi, she had this prayer meeting, was a vigil, and it was supposed to be in Lagos, in Maryland, Lagos, and I just really felt it inclined in my spirit that I had to be there. Remember, I was serving in Ibadan. I've never traveled out of the city for a church program, not for a church program, for a vigil. But that one, I just knew I had to be there. So after work on that Friday, I think, or was it Saturday morning, I went there. It was a vigil, so it was Friday night. I left work early, traveled to Lagos, went straight to, the venue it was in Maryland, King Village. And I remember that particular event, and it wasn't like it was like so spectacular or anything, but I just remember being there and feeling like I had received what was going to be the template for the next phase of my life. And it wasn't until much later, after I got married, after we got married, got a remote job in tech and all of that. That was when I realized that the venue for that prayer meeting was just about 5 minutes or 2 minutes drive from my husband's house. And it was just crazy. And I felt like that particular incident, like going there, was God taking me, how God showed Abraham the land of Canaan that his children were going to inherit, before they even went there at all. I feel like that, going for that DDK's program, because it didn't make any sense to travel overnight for a program, was God showing me that this is where I am taking you to. So all of that, eventually service year almost came. I traveled back to Ibadan. Service year, was about to come to an end. And I remember, praying again, like, God, make it clear. By that time, I knew that Lagos was my next destination. Remember that prayer meeting I mentioned? I knew I was supposed to be in Lagos, but how will I go to Lagos? It wasn't like my family had any house in Lagos or anything. I needed a job. Then I started speaking to people, started to pray. Initially, I was like going to talk to, one of our senior professors who liked me then, maybe, that knew people that had practices, maybe they could speak to them. But my dad was like, no, don't lobby your way through. You're a graduate, you should be able to apply for roles and get it. And that was just what I did. And I just spoke to some of the doctors I knew that were working in, a hospital in Lagos, and they were like, oh, okay. And then they were like, oh, we'll let you know. And then all of a sudden, an opportunity just opened just a month before I finished service. I got the job in Lagos, and that was how I moved to Lagos. In fact, I left Ibadan on the day of my passing out with a job offer already. It wasn't a lot of money. It was just about 75K. So fast forward to that, moving to Lagos, I felt there was a church I was going to, but God was like, no, go to Celebration Church. I went to Celebration Church once. I said I wasn't going back again. 2 months later, I still felt inclined to go. I went, and that's how, I became a member, became active, started attending their cell meetings. And that was when my heart started to change. Yes, I started becoming more inclined to the gospel. And more than that, other than that, there was this solid community, of young people who were doing so much. So back in the clinic, yes, I was enjoying being in Lagos, working as a vet, but it was becoming the salary wasn't great, 75K, I was earning 75,000 naira then, and thank God they gave me an apartment on the hospital, on the hospital premises, which really helped me save costs. But I started getting dissatisfied, not just, with the money, but with the lifestyle. There were days when, Saturdays, days when I had to leave church on Sundays, because I was on call. And that was just when I was I started to really check my heart, is there any other thing I can do? Is there any other career path that will give me flexibility? And remember, I was in this community of young people. Some of them were working with tech startups. You will soon see how this connects to my transition story. And I remember some of the times when we'll be in the clinic and we'll see young people. One of them was Dami Odufua. She's one of the co-founders of Backdrop. And I didn't even know she was in tech. Then Ezra too. Ezra is the co-founder of Paystack. They would come with their pets and pay, and this just seemed so comfortable. It just seemed like a very flexible life. And before I even got to know that, that they were working for tech startups, then I was on Twitter. And I remember the particular time, so I started dating my husband then, and Salem King, was doing a content creation course. Of course, he knew I like to write and tell stories and all of that, and I just mentioned it in passing to him. I remember that course was 5K, and I didn't have it. I couldn't afford it, And then I remember my husband sending the money to me, registering, he was my boyfriend then, sending the money to me and then registering for that course. And from there, I started to do videos. And before you knew it, people knew that, Folashade used to do content, at least people in our immediate environment, not like I blew up immediately. And I did that. The pandemic came, I was shooting videos, posting it, writing articles and all of that. Then one of my friends got a job as a product marketer. She's my sister-in-law now. It's just really amazing how God used everyone around me. And then they needed someone who could write content. And she reached out to me. I did the interview, and that was how I got the job. But it's not even so much about getting the job. And that was in 2020, October 2020. I will not forget. It was just after, September 2020 was when I did the interviews. It was just after like COVID was rounding off and all of that. And I just, now it's not so much even about like that one job, but it's that series of events, that led to being opportune at the right place at the right time. And I strongly feel like I had to have gotten into the tech industry at that time. And every other thing that God was doing was, to lead me in that direction. So if you're in a situation like this, you want to transition careers, I would say that number one, know that God wants to lead you way more than you want to be led. You're seeking clarity. Just spend time with him, pray in tongues, and you will just begin to know things. Then the second thing I would say is surround yourself with people who are already there in that industry, so that they can show you their examples. There's just so much being around a certain community does for you that it changes your mind without even knowing it. And then the final thing I would say is that I did that really helped. Be vocal about your journey, be vocal about your journey, about what you're learning. Let people around you know. Because I was putting out content, people knew that, Folashade could write, even though I was still working as a vet. And when the right opportunity came, someone referred me. And I'm not even saying like you guys are not putting in the work or anything, but as you're also taking courses, just try to talk about what you're doing and your work. And I just trust that God will bring the right opportunities to you at the right time. It will just be like a kairos moment for you. And I'm just really praying with you today. If you're in this situation, if you've been looking for how to transition, that God will make it clear to you, and that he will lead you, and that you would know where to go and what to do and how to do and who to speak to. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this. I know this is like different from the style that we are used to, but I just really hope that you guys enjoyed, this. Let me know if you have any questions about transitioning careers, and I'll be happy to answer.